And Carolina has been a sustainability expert on different levels and different topics. As you may have picked up during conversation, she helped Hugh with his green certification. And I think she's also worked with different local governments. And then also, I'm not sure for how long, Carolina, you've been a B Corp consultant, but I do know that you have really helped my business. So there may be more for you to say about yourself before you get going, but I guess just what I'd like to say about Carolina is that she's an amazing professional and really helpful. And so if after this presentation you feel like finding out more, she can answer basically, I think, any question about B Corp certification. So I am going to hand it off to you, Carolina.
Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate that introduction. And, you know, one thing that I'm just going to say from the outset about B Corp certification, there are a number of benefits. People have already mentioned how hard it is, and there are a number of benefits, but I would say one of the biggest benefits is really the community that you get to be a part of. That's how Anna and I have connected through lunches and webinars, lunches back in the day when we could all get together. But there's a very strong focus and interest among B Corps where the community is very highly valued. So, you know, as I kind of talk about how hard it is to actually get certified, I encourage you to keep that in mind. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I don't have too many slides, but there are a couple here that I just wanted to share with you. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So Anna spoke a little bit about my background, and this is pretty much my B Corp journey goes back more than 10 years, but it's not the only thing that I've done. I've been very involved with the California Green Business Program. I've worked as a sustainability coach with local governments, worked very closely with the city of Berkeley, city of Emeryville. I've worked with some larger corporations, Pixar, Bayer, worked with Caltrans, developing sustainability action plans. Basically, I shifted gears, 2008, 2009, left my nonprofit career and went to work in the private sector, started my own business in 2010. And I learned about B Corps early on. You can see back in 2009, I helped my first company get certified. It was actually the last company that I worked for before I started my own business. And I knew when I started Cultivating Capital, which celebrated its 10th anniversary last year, that it was going to be a B Corp. So I just share that with you to say that this is something that I believe in very passionately, and I do geek out on this. So yes, any questions that you have, if I can't give you the answer, then I will be happy to track it down for you. But basically, I help companies not just to get certified, but I participate very much in the community. There is a B Corp Women CEOs group that we're involved with. There's also a B Local group for local B Corps, and I can connect you with the websites, mailing lists for any of these things if you're interested in getting involved a little bit more. So we've talked about B Corps a little bit, just to make sure that we're on the same page. It's basically a third-party certification, and it's really for companies that are committing to meeting verified higher standards of social or environmental performance. So in that sense, it's a little different from, say, other certifications that you might have heard. The one that Hugh Groman and I are very involved with is the Green Business Certification. That looks very much at environmental impacts, but B Corp certification looks at the social impacts as well and really weighs those very heavily. And somebody mentioned, I think it was Aaron at the beginning, that a company that he had worked with ended up not getting certified, but they became a benefit corporation. So that's separate. That is a legal status similar to a C Corp or an S Corp that some companies can attain. We don't really have too much time to get into that aspect of it, but for our purposes right now, it's just important to understand that there is the certification, which is meeting these verified higher standards, and then there is the legal entity. And one thing that I do want everybody to take away from this short presentation today is that this is a global certification. So there are B Corps all around the world. As of today, I think it's a little bit more than 3762, but it's about, say, 3,800 B Corps, and that is in 74 countries. The one thing that unites all B Corps is that they do have this commitment to using business as a force for good. So in my breakout group, we were talking a little bit about financial sustainability and how B Corps are for-profit companies, and absolutely they are. The big difference between B Corps and kind of traditional business as usual is that B Corps are saying, yes, we have to make a profit. If we don't make a profit, we go out of business. So we need to make a profit, but we want to do it in a way that we can feel good about. We want to do it in a way where we're not degrading the environment, where we're not exploiting people, where we are trying to operate a company that is values driven and a company that reflects those values. So that's basically what the certification is, and that's really what unites all B Corps. One of the things that I wanted to point out to you here, so you can go to bcorporation.net. There's a directory where all B Corps have to provide their B impact report, which we'll take a look at one, in a few minutes here. And you can go on there at any time. You can look up any B Corp. You can look up Calibri Digital Marketing. You can look up Cultivating Capital. You can look up Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's. You'll see what their impact report shows. But this really is something I wanted to share with you, because if you look at where these companies come from and the sectors that they're operating in, it really runs the gamut. This is like an architectural firm in the Netherlands. This is a wealth management firm in England. This is an online marketplace in Australia. Here, there's a communications training company in China. Here there's an IT company in St. Louis, Missouri, a little closer than some of those others, but it really is an incredibly diverse community. So just to answer a couple of questions that come up, who can certify any for-profit company? Somebody mentioned during the intro that, it was good to find out that you don't have to be a big company. You don't. I actually don't have employees. I work with contractors, and my company's been a B Corp since 2012. So you can be a sole proprietor, you can be an LLC, you can be a corporation. The only main thing that is really important is that you do need to be in operation for 1 year, because one of the things that makes the B Corp certification so rigorous is that it's not aspirational. It's not looking at what do you want to do, what do you say you're going to do, but it's actually looking at what have you done. And so for that reason, you actually have to have 1 year of operations under your belt. And looks like my mouse just froze at a very inopportune time. So let me see here. Okay, so why certify? There's a number of reasons why businesses will certify. A lot of times it's because they do absolutely believe in the mission. They do want to meet those higher standards. In my breakout group, one other thing that was mentioned is kind of the marketing benefits. And so it is a very good way of differentiating from other competitors that might be making some claims, but can't actually back those up. And it is a great way to attract and engage talent as well, especially among millennials that are really taking an interest in this. So in terms of how a company certifies, there's a fairly rigorous process. The key is that you have to get a verified score of 80 on the B impact assessment. And so that is really what we're going to take a look at. And here, this gives you an overview of the full certification process. So the first thing is you need to complete the B impact assessment. It consists of 5 different sections covering governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. You submit that for review to B Lab, which is a nonprofit that manages the certification. And they will assign an analyst to your company, and then you will be asked to provide documentation for the answers that you've provided on your BIA for short for B impact assessment. There is a legal requirement which varies a little bit depending upon how you're currently structured, whether you're an LLC, whether you're a corporation, and then also depending on what state you're in, because not all states yet recognize benefit corporation. Approximately, I want to say like 32 out of the 50 states actually meet that, actually do have benefit corporation status. And then you have to sign the agreement and pay the fees. So there are fees that need to be paid. B Lab is very transparent. So again, you can go to bcorporation.net, you can select certification, and you can actually see there what the fees are for your company, and it's based on annual revenues. So that is what the quick overview of the process. And I wanted to jump over, my mouse isn't working, it just stopped. Let me see if I can do this really quickly to jump over to Crystal's BIA, because I'm just going to check these batteries and see what might have happened here.
Guys, you can't judge me, my score is very low.
So no need to worry about that, Crystal, because it's actually very common. And one of the things that I wanted to actually point out, let's see if...
Crystal, we will judge you though. I just want to let you know that.
Oh, no.
No way, group agreements. This is a no judgment zone.
Crystal, do you by chance have your BIA up right now? Because I actually have it. You can see it here on the other tab, but for some reason, I'm not able to access it. Let me see if...
It's on my other laptop that I signed off of.
Okay. I'll tell you what, let's just skip that. Maybe in a couple of minutes, when you move on to something else, I can run and change the batteries on the mouse and see what might have happened. But what I can tell you about right now, while we see if Crystal is able to pull it up, is it is really quite rigorous. And so in these 5 areas, the way that the impact assessment is structured is that there isn't, as of right now, anything that you absolutely have to do. What happens is that as you answer questions in the affirmative, you start to get points for the beneficial practices that you're doing. And then as you accumulate points, that's what ends up getting you up to 80. So some of the things that you might run across on the impact assessment in the governance section, there are questions around impact reports, around how you're engaging stakeholders. So stakeholders is a really important concept within the B Corp movement, because rather than focusing just on shareholders, we're actually looking at anybody who has a stake in your company. And that can be employees, it could be customers, it could be suppliers, it could be members of the local community. So those questions get addressed in the governance section. In the worker section, obviously, that's where you'll get all the questions about employee benefits, if they're paid living wages, what type of professional development opportunities are being offered, employee satisfaction levels, attrition levels. It gets, again, very detailed. In the community section, that's where you will see questions related to giving back, whether it's pro bono service or whether it is charitable giving, so actually making financial contributions. Supply chain questions will get addressed there, and then also any questions related to equity, diversity, and inclusion will also be addressed there. In the environment section, obviously that's where you're going to get questions about waste management and reduction, if the company's calculating its carbon footprint, what it's doing to reduce it, if it's purchasing offsets. For product-based companies, I don't know how many we have here, but if you do have products, that's where it gets into the environmental attributes of your product. So does it have like recycled content, for example? And then in the customers section, that's where it will actually look at customer stewardship practices. So looking at things like privacy policies, email practices, like are you meeting GDPR best practices for email marketing? So as you can see, it's very rigorous. They also do a company background check as part of their own due diligence. And so, you know, if there's lawsuits, bankruptcies, anything that might negatively impact the certification, then that will come up during the review process. And I guess the last thing I'll say right now, because I know that I'm kind of at the time that I was allotted to speak anyways before opening it up for Q&A, is that right now there is global interest to such a level that there's about a 5-month wait period right now to actually have your impact assessment undergo the review through B Lab. So that is, it's great because even with the pandemic, even with the recession, one of the things that we're seeing is that the companies that are committing to meeting this, this verification standard are not being deterred by, you know, by some of the challenges around us. So with that, I guess I'll ask Crystal if you were able to log into your BIA.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. Then maybe somebody can stop me from sharing. I think as host, you might be able to stop me from sharing, and then I can tell you where to go on your BIA.
Yeah, I was trying to share earlier, but can you see it?
Yep.
Yep.
Great.
Perfect. Okay, so here, thank you, Crystal, for pivoting quickly to make this possible. So here you can see the different sections that I have that are included in the BIA. These are the ones that I was just talking about. The disclosure questionnaire is that part that I was mentioning where you have to disclose if you're in any sensitive industries like, you know, gambling or tobacco, anything like that. And then also if there is anything, you know, bankruptcies, lawsuits, things like that. If you don't mind clicking on your dashboard, please, on the left-hand side. Okay, so if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see here, perfect. So over here, where it says B Impact Assessment, the overall score is 25.8. And you can see that Crystal has completed it 100%. So that's good. That means that you went through everything, you answered as much as you could. This is not an uncommon score. One of the things that I find when I work with clients, and in some cases they'll tell me, we've been working on this for 2 years and we can't get past, you know, 67.8 points. You know, in other cases, I've had clients who have actually submitted their BIA to B Lab for review. They, you know, had 80+ points, but they answered things incorrectly. And so by the time the analyst revised their score, they ended up below the mark. They ended up maybe in the 50s. And so they had to go back and work on it. So that's absolutely not uncommon at all. If you don't mind, Crystal, please, on the left-hand side where it says reports, click down there and then select the B Impact Report. And this is basically the snapshot that is provided that shows how you did in any given section. So you can see up at the top on that kind of progress bar where it says 25.8, that's the company's current score. 49.4 is the average for ordinary companies, meaning they're not B Corps. So just this impact assessment, I forgot to mention, is a freely available tool. Anybody can use it. And so they actually benchmark how your company does against ordinary businesses and then against B Corps. 80 is a magic number for B Corp certification. And then 131, that one in blue, that is for companies that are considered best for the world, meaning that they
The other way, Crystal.
Yeah, there you go. That go down, go that third plus symbol from the top. Perfect. So then, thank you. This shows you, again, you can kind of dive in and see how people are doing in DEI, in charitable giving, in supply chain management. And this is the snapshot that is transparent for all B Corp. So if you're certified, then this information is publicly available. That's kind of the commitment that we make as B Corps. So now I think that I really am over my time. So do we have time for a couple of questions, Anna?
We definitely do. Yeah, we have about 3 minutes, and well, actually, no, you have a few more minutes because we can go till 6:20. Yeah, and then people can kind of throw out some questions too. So if you have a couple more things you wanted to say about Crystal's assessment or anything else, you could kind of sum that up, and then we'll ask people for takeaways and questions.
Okay, sure. Scroll up, please, Crystal. And actually go back to the dashboard, please. So I did just see a question pop up about how often do you have to get certified. The certification is valid for 3 years. And then after those 3 years, you do have to recertify. One of the things that makes that a little tricky is that the B Corp certification is really built towards continuous improvement. So that's why, you always see things that you can improve upon. And the impact assessment itself is actually also updated every 3 years. So for example, Anna recertified last year, I recertified this year, or actually I also recertified last year. We were both on version 6 of the assessment, which if you look here at the screen where it says 2021 active, you see that that's version 6. Version 7 is due to come out in 2022. So that means that when Anna and I go to recertify as B Corps in 2022, we're actually going to see a new and updated version of the assessment. So it's basically, you can't just because you did well one year doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to do well the next time. It all depends on what the new practices are that are presented. And then if you can scroll down a little bit, right there, perfect, thank you. So one thing I want to point out to you is this overall score is 25.8. And if you take a look underneath that, you'll see that the operation score is 23.6. IBM is 0. IBM refers to impact business models. So the impact assessment actually makes a distinction between kind of practices that reflect positive operations. So say, for example, if you have an environmental policy, if you have produced an impact report, if you have a privacy policy on your website, you'll get points in the operations section. But the impact business model is really where B Lab looks at, okay, but tell us what you're really doing to actually have a positive impact as far as your business model goes. So for example, Anna supports a lot of purpose-driven clients. I hope you don't mind me sharing that, Anna. I think people know that you're purpose-driven and that you support people and companies that are doing good in the world. So the impact assessment actually recognizes that. It recognizes and gives credit for supporting other purpose-driven businesses or individuals from underrepresented groups, rather than say just supporting a mainstream business as usual company. So it gets very very detailed and very nuanced.
I think now, Carolina, let's have you, because it's 6:21, start answering some questions. And there are a couple of really great questions. One of them is, can you tell us about the services you provide to help the certification? I think you'll be able to handle that. softball. And then the other one, though, which I think is interesting too, is where can you find a list of Bay Area B Corp certified companies? And to me, that speaks to the community aspect of B Corp and how, we really try to work together. So just for example, this year, when people sent me client gifts, the kind of end of the year thing, I was like, oh, great. I work with this person. She's my web host and she's sending me a gift from Zigo and their Bay Area B Corp that produces food. So we kind of work together like that. And it would be interesting, I think, for everybody to have that information. So those are a couple questions right off the bat.
Sure. Well, I can answer that second one first. If you go to the website, it's bcorporation.net. Up at the top, there's going to be a link to the directory. And then once you select the directory, you can actually filter down. Thank you for dropping that link into the chat, Anna. You can filter down by geographic location or by industry. So if you want to see, for example, all of the businesses in California or in San Francisco, you can filter it down that way. Or if you say, like I know we have a couple of marketers here. If you say, I want to, see all B Corps that are in marketing, regardless of where they're located, you can also do that. And then of course, if there's a specific B Corp that you're looking for, you can go in and you can just search for them. The other question was about my services. And I will preface this by saying that, plenty of B Corps get certified without hiring a consultant. So don't feel that just because I share my services with you that you absolutely have to work with a consultant in order to get certified. I kind of look at it as, people will hire consultants to help with B Corp certification for the same reason that they're going to hire someone to do their website. They can probably figure it out on their own. They can go ahead and do it on their own, but it helps them to have somebody who understands all of the in and outs and kind of has, the expertise in that area. So I find that the clients I work with, they don't have the time because they're usually running a business. And the questions can be very complex, and the way that you need to gather the documentation in order to pass the review process can also be very tricky. So, sometimes they just don't have the expertise. Whereas like I'm looking at this stuff for multiple companies, every day. This is basically what I do. So what we do is we help clients to complete the assessment. We provide them with tools and resources to assist with everything that we are recommending to them. So for example, a lot of clients that I work with, they haven't calculated their carbon footprint because they get to that question and they're like, oh, GHGs, I don't know what this is. It sounds complicated. So we've developed tools and we have partnerships in place to either help the client take care of that or to make sure that, we can refer them to somebody who can take care of that so that we're able to increase their score and, make it as painless as possible. So basically we help from the beginning to the end until we get through the verification process. It can end up being, especially with B Lab's wait time, a long consulting engagement. And we're also right now in the process of launching a membership program that is for companies that are, and people who are just enthusiastic about B Corps, even if they're not yet ready to get certified. So we're doing like webinars twice a month and, looking to kind of help people to connect around this common interest and passion.
Right. There's another question, which is, what is the biggest challenge you see with people getting certified? And a couple that I can think of right the top of the bat is not everybody knows about B Corp. So a first barrier is actually awareness. And then another one I think is kind of maybe time, money, bandwidth, which is kind of where Carolina comes in. But I think that also speaks to the fact that people they have a desire to do good and may be doing business for good, but don't really have all the vocabulary, don't have kind of the mindset. And don't really think of things the way that the certifying agency thinks of things. And so that is also where a consultant comes in, because they can explain to you what the mindset is. But, you see it's maybe not as popular as it could be in the LGBT community. And that's something too that we want to work on from the point of view of making a good B Corp community, is making sure that it's inclusive and that people who wouldn't normally have, or wouldn't maybe be aware of it, or wouldn't think that it was for them, could also become part of this community. But those are just a couple thoughts that I had, and you can probably answer it from your actually in the trenches experience.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest, I think everything that you just mentioned is spot on. The biggest challenges I see are time and expertise. So a lot of times, people just don't have the time to do it. It really is very time consuming to go through, answer the impact assessment, gather the templates, gather the resources, implement the practices, make sure that you've got the documentation, communicate with B Lab as necessary. So, as a business owner, what the clients I talk to, I can relate to why they hire me, because it's the same reason that I hire someone to do my website. It's the same reason that, I hire someone to do my accounting, my bookkeeping, like all of these things that we all need to run our business, because it's just not the best use of my time to try to figure that out. And that's kind of the same thing I hear from clients about why they bring in outside assistance. The other challenge that's related to that is really just the understanding what the questions are. I talk to so many people who tell me, they're like, I consider myself a smart person. Like, I run a business, I do all of these things. They're like, but I look at these questions and I just can't understand what they're saying. And yeah, a lot of it, it's just understanding the jargon, understanding the technology, the terms that are being used, but then also it's understanding, okay, this is what it's saying, but this is really what they're going to look for. So, we do another service we offer is we will review someone's impact assessment, even if they're not, sure about hiring a consultant to go through the full certification. We'll just review their impact assessment. That's one of the services that we offer. And I've seen, like, somebody we're working with right now, they're like at 175 points. And when we went through it, there were so many things that were marked wrong that it's totally bringing their score down. But it was just because they weren't, they just didn't understand like what the criteria was for the impact business models. So they had double counted a bunch of stuff. So it gets tricky.
Oh, right. Okay. So we're almost right at the hour. So I want to say thank you so much for presenting this, and in your sort of clear and informative style that I've grown so used to. So I hope that at least 50% of you all are going to become B Corps. And so then you'll be very well situated to do good. And that sets you up for next month's Make Contact, where you get to learn how to look good. So the March Make Contact is about Zoom makeovers. And we also have a legislative update coming up, but I'm focused on doing good and looking good, and I bet a lot of you are too. So I hope you'll join us for that. And then with Shelley Golden, and then before that, I hope you will join us for a legislative update, which is one place I think that B Corp kind of mentality can also join a mentality of being politically engaged, which I think we all realized lately is extremely important for everyone. So thank you very much. And it's been wonderful. So big hand to, you can all unmute, I think, and give Carolina a big hand.
No,
awesome.
Thank you so much. And I know that there wasn't a ton of time, so you're all welcome to reach out if you have any other questions.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Anna and Caroline.